Grateful you're the first person that I am interviewing in this series that I'm calling the Stories from the Heart, the Leadership Edition. And so these are leaders that I have identified and also that other people will be nominating. And then we're having conversations about you as a leader, what makes you, what makes you, what puts you on this path of this leadership journey. So before we dive too much into it, I want to hear about you. Tell us about you, an introduction of sorts.
Oh my. That's why I wanted to send you my bio
I know, right?
so you can tell me about me, right? No, I'm James Mason, and I guess we've known each other for several years now, worked together here in Oregon at one point. Currently I work in the healthcare field. I work for an insurance company. I think a pretty progressive insurance company in terms of trying to make sure that our communities are good at supporting healthy lifestyles, and which we think is not only in our best interest, but our community's best interest, if not healthcare's best interest generally. Been working in healthcare for the last 20, 25 years, I guess. Before that was primarily an academic working in graduate or professional schools. Also had a business, a consulting business that I think I've had for about 20, 25 years, consulting typically around health and human service delivery around the country, particularly as it considers marginalized and diverse populations. A father of four. Yeah, and a middle child. I have two sisters. One is no longer here, but love her dearly and spend a lot of time with her, even in her absence, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think that's who I am for the most part.
Yeah, no, I love that. You covered a lot of ground there. You invited us into who you are. I love that. I love that so much. So when I think about a leader, I think about somebody who people follow, right, without them asking. Because we, like in your job right now, you are a leader, but you're also an executive. And so people follow you in your work because they're told to do so, right, based on the reporting structure. But I follow you in the other work that you talked about a little bit, because I just love your passion. I love your style. I've been in so many sessions, but in particular one that I know people were in tears crying, and
Oh, wow.
like how you created that safe space for them. Anyway, before I get too much into that, I took something from your website that I wanted to read. So it says, Dr. Mason is an inspirational and powerful motivational speaker. His goal is to open hearts and minds to remind us what we can do together when focused on our similarities and strengths. I love that so much. So keeping this in mind, I would like to know your why. Why do you do this work? What's your why behind what you do?
Well, when you were reading that, I'm like, I'm sure that was developed by some marketing person, and wow, Dr. Mason must be a real cool guy.
I happen to think so.
You're biased. We can't listen to you. No, you know, my why. I think what I was born to do. I didn't realize it until much older. My mom was a nurse most of my life. My dad worked in aerospace most of my life, but he always had a little league team. He always in some big brother, big sister program. He's always volunteering due to his other skills in drug and alcohol rehab, even while working full time in his aerospace role. And I never really realized it, but they were kind of do-gooders, right? I also grew up in LA, where I had all kind of friends and lived in all parts of the city, and beginning in South Central, which was really essential to who I am. And last place I lived in Southern California was Santa Monica, which was also instrumental who I am. And they're fundamentally different types of environments. When I moved to Oregon, I began to miss the stimulation that I got in LA.
Mm.
And the reason I went to school was to think that I was going to be educated to find ways to go back and help my hood, my community, my people. And end up having kids in Oregon. And once you have kids somewhere, it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
So I became organized, as I tell people.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I think lived up to what my parents expected of me and lived up to what I expected of me was to do this work and trying to make the world better for others. We are all born with some sense of privilege. And I was lucky enough that my parents were able to finish school, um, move us up in our community, stabilize our lifestyle a little bit more. I had the privilege of going to school, the privilege of being native born, English speaker, able bodied so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I like my privileges and I'm not giving them up, right?
Yeah.
But I'll get you some, right? And I think that's fair. And I think what I've also learned is that it's kind of about me a little bit, right? So while I think it looks like I'm this altruist and I care for everyone, and I like to think I do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also what drives me is thinking I'm making the world better, thinking I'm doing what my parents and my ancestors would expect me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of the things that have accrued to me, it's because I benefited from the sacrifices of others. So as I understand the world in my simple way, is what goes around comes around.
Yep.
And so while I do better, I got to help others do better. If I do better and you don't, then I need a Rottweiler. I need a Smith and Wesson. I need a burglar alarm.
Yeah.
And it's not rocket science that way. So I
Mm-hmm.
use my degree. I use my employment. I use my wherewithal generally to try to make the world better for others as people did for me. And I
Mm.
think unless I do that,
Mm-hmm.
culturally, I stole it, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and I find it fun. And I've met interesting people, such as
Mm-hmm.
yourself, who have these expectations of me to do what I do. Oh, so I try not to let them down either.
Well, we're just following. I mean, that's why I said you're a leader, right? Because if your work wasn't as interesting or impactful, or fun or, meaningful to me, then we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? Because I've met so many people who do work and we have interacted and I've seen them present, but they're not somebody I'm inviting to have a conversation with.
Well, I'm honored
So,
that you did. And to your point, I think what I've long learned is the difference between leaders and managers.
mm-hmm.
I think managers typically manage what is.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think leaders can lead from any point
Yeah.
um, toward a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to talk about this idea of leading from the back of the bus or leading from the bottom of the ship. When I wasn't in a leadership role, I was still, somewhat of an irritant and trying to suggest what might be a better state and how we might get there and why we might get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that really makes one a leader, but trying to get people on the same page, pulling in the same direction, moving toward a greater vision. I think that's what leaders kind of do. And one of the sad things about leadership, I do believe, is that not everyone will be on your page at some point. So at some point, leadership is lonely, right? At some point, not everyone will believe, but part of your journey and part of your task is getting them on the same page and helping them understand that what we're considering or planning is in all of our best interests. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's really rocket science, and I don't know. I have to think about it. Are leaders born or leaders made? I don't know. I think they can be made. I think they can learn skills around
Mm-hmm.
leadership.
Yeah, it can be. I think it can be both. There are
Yeah.
people who we can develop your skills as a leader, and some people just do it kind of naturally. And I feel like you're one of those that sort of does it naturally, but maybe because you learned from your parents who were kind of leaders in your community. So,
Well,
um,
I was lucky. I was lucky in so many ways.
mhm,
I was fortunate to have both my parents and for them to become my best friends as I grew up. I
mhm,
was also fortunate to have that network of friends who would push me, kick me, shove me when I wasn't listening to them. And then I've had great instructors and great bosses to learn from.
Yeah.
So it goes back to talking about the privileges and the blessings that I've had. I think we're
Yeah.
supposed to share those.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that. And that's why I love what you do, is that you continue to share your gifts and your passion with, even, as recent as a few months ago when we were talking to people in Canada, like even going international and sharing your gift. I think that's beautiful, because you're not just hoarding it to yourself. You're sharing it with the world. So, but tell me, what's your I for my people that will be listening, what's your degree in?
Oh,
You're
my degree.
Dr. Mason. So tell us what led you to Dr. Mason.
Oh, what led me there was I didn't want to work. So when I got my first degree, it was either I think I was supposed to go play basketball in Europe. I tried out for an NBA team, didn't make it, got my feelings hurt. Was supposed to go to Europe and play, didn't pay that much money, but I'd already been accepted to a PhD program.
Oh, okay.
And an interesting thing was school was easier than working, right? And I didn't want to go play basketball in Europe for 6 months. Um, and I really didn't want to work. I really didn't want to work because I tried that once. I'm like, whoa, this ain't no fun. And I said, I can stay in school. My parents would be proud of me. I can always ask them for money. And I was going to school on a scholarship, graduate scholarship. So I wasn't paying for it. So shoot, I tried to stay on that scholarship as long as I could. And
So you wouldn't go to work?
yeah, I didn't shoot, I worked one summer and I said, man, and then a buddy of mine told me one day, I'm like, dang, man, I don't want to go to work today. And he said to me, man, you're gonna be working for the next 40 years. And I thought that was the rudest thing anyone could have said to me when I was 25 years old. I was devastated. 40 years.
That's a long
I
time.
don't want to even go tomorrow, right? So I said, so school began to look better and better and better, right?
But hey, you kept up with it until now you're Dr. Mason. So
Yeah. Oh, and my
yeah.
PhD is in urban studies. Again, the idea was I wanted to understand how cities work and how cities could be made better. Growing up at the hood and then in the hood in LA, hoods of LA, I guess I should say, and then going to school and have them explain what my community was like. The way schools taught me about the hood wasn't the way that I experienced the hood. So even though I probably lived in a poor neighborhood and what have you, I didn't see the drugs that were supposed to be in my neighborhood. I didn't see the abuse or anything like that. And all my little buddies, all of us were thinking about doing the right thing, going to school, blah blah blah. And so I didn't see the pathology that I learned existed in my community. And so the idea was go get this degree, understand how cities work, go back to LA, go back to the hood, and make it better. So my areas of specialization ended up being human resources, which I thought was something else. And then the other one was public administration.
Wait. I don't want to just pass over that. You said you thought it was something else. What does that even mean?
No, I was so naive. I thought human resources was taking a community and developing that community for something greater. And then I kept on wondering why I'm taking on.
Oh yeah. I mean, when you look.
I mean, taking human resources and growing them. Then I was like, taking human resources. Why am I taking all these classes on organizational development? I don't care about organizational development. And then toward the end, it was too late to change. I'm like, damn, I don't want to be one of those. I am one of those.
That
But
is the
no,
funniest thing I've heard about human resources.
yeah, I would never say that I wasn't confused as a young adult. I would never say that I'm not confused as an old adult. But no, and then, but I really consider myself a researcher and a teacher. So what I learned how to do is I learned how to collect information, understand information, analyze information, and to some extent, I learned how to share information. And so I used my education at one point, I was studying children's mental health, and then I began to wonder about what happens to children in the outback, children in the savannah, children in the tundra. What do we do for people and families that have mental illness in places like that? So I began to study mental illness from a cross-cultural perspective, which I found a whole body of knowledge there that was thrilling, which, kind of kicked me over to looking at it from a healthcare perspective, then understanding the work development and staff development, organizational development aspects of it. And then I became a diversity dude, and so I'm a diversity dude.
I love that, and that's one thing I respect about your work, because I have been in meetings where I literally cringe when they're talking about diversity, inclusion, and, like the EDI space, because I feel like the message that a lot of people share is about making a certain group of people feel bad about who they are. But like I said, I follow you, I've seen you in action. It's about exactly that. What can we do together if we focus on how similar we are and if we focus on the strengths? And I love how you looked into all these other ways. I think some of the things that you do, it's like on health literacy, and like you're talking about different cultures. I think that's a very wholesome way to approach this space, and to share knowledge and to bring us all together, to have that sort of common understanding, I think. And that's one thing I love about the work that you do, is that it is not cringeworthy, because the EDI space can be uncomfortable, but you make it such that people feel safe. Like I said, people were crying in that meeting.
Oh, well, I don't. No, I think when you look at the literature around identity development or just personal development, um, once you learn to love and really know yourself, um, I don't think you feel a need to put anyone else down. That's not to say that you shouldn't point out history, facts, and things of that
Right,
nature.
right.
But I don't get a kick out of making anyone hurt or feel bad. I'm about making people that I care about feel and do better, right?
Yeah.
I think there's room enough for anyone to play in this arena. Um, like I said, my major focus is around race and ethnicity, but other forms of difference are also of interest and concern to me. I think we have more in common than we like to think, and I think the dominant paradigm benefits when we're divided around things that may not matter. So I'm not trying to minimize any difference or anything like that. But I often tell people, value diversity, for example, which I think is important, but also understand that some of the differences that are apparent may not be that significant, right?
Right. Yeah.
Here's a more important part. Some of the commonalities that we have may be less apparent, but more significant.
Yeah.
Can we rally around the fact that we might be people of faith, that we might be parents, that we might be children, that we might like puppies, that we might like cake, that we might like the environment? Can we rally around that and understand that some of the groups that are caught up in oppression actually serve as a buffer and oppress those who are marginalized in ways that benefit people that are on top. I mean, it's not, I'm not arguing for some conspiracy theory or anything like that or what have you, but just saying that the sad thing is that a lot of what we could have in common is lost when we are kind of forced to focus only on our differences and stop there. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been educated in ways to not respect, not trust, not regard. And there are movements even to this day that would continue that miseducation. But I think, one, as a marginalized individual, you have to learn about who you are. But by the same token, for those of us who have privileges of any nature, have to learn how to use those privileges to lever
Right.
opportunities and experiences for other people who are less fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally, I understand that. So you as a leader, what would you say are some of challenges that you that you have as you're trying to, get people together, focus on similarities and strengths? What do you feel like are some of the challenges that you see or you experience?
I think bias is one that we typically are unaware of. When certain people walk in the room, what we begin to think and what we begin to do, are we even aware of it? I talk about this experience where you go to the bank and you're fifth in line and you're the only whatever you are in there. I'm African American, I'm the only Black person, but I could be the only LGBTQ person or the only person with a disability. But you're in line and you watch the teller. Hey, how are you today? Oh, that's a lovely hat. What do you think of the weather? Blah, blah, blah. What are you here to do today? Next person. Oh, look at your child. Your child is so beautiful. Your lunch bill is so wonderful. Your work clothes, everything is great. And then I walk up there and they said, how may I help you?
Yeah.
I'm like, I want you to ask me about the weather. I want you to ask me about my outfit. I want you to ask me about my lunch. I want some of what they got. Now, this teller wasn't sitting there saying, I hate Black people. That wasn't what was happening.
Yeah.
It was just the bias that certain people are easier to engage or should be engaged, and
Yeah.
others are less so. And so I don't think it's a willful act. I'm hoping it's not a willful or explicit act. I think it's implicit, but it's still like a gut punch when I know my money is green like everyone else's money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you deal with that challenge?
I often say stuff, not rude or anything like that. How may I help you? I said, how about a hello?
Okay.
Can I get one of those today? Right?
Yeah.
Can I get someone what they just got? Right? And I tend to say it in a polite way.
Yeah.
There have been
But
times
it sends the message, right?
yeah, it's like, hey, I'm a customer too. And often when I teach organizations, I tell them, make sure that you're showing love to your patrons. And not those that are dressed like you and I here today, but those people who have dirt on their fingernail, those who might be wearing overalls, those who might have their knees scuffed, those who might smell like cigarette smoke. Show them love as well.
Yeah.
Show them love as well. And particularly if they've had a bad experience, it doesn't take much for their new experience to go south, right?
Right. Yeah.
So imagine if my whole life people are, oh, how are you today? How are you doing? How do you? So that when I run into that one teller who doesn't show me love, it doesn't trigger, right? It's just a drop in the bucket. But when it's another splash in the bucket,
When you keep getting that over and
it's
over
like,
again.
dang, I don't want this. I don't want this. And so, no, I tend to try to speak up. Like I said, not blowing anybody's hair back or anything like that. But at this point in my life, uh, I try to use my platform to
share.
protect the next person, and because I'm going to be okay for the most part, has been my experience.
Yeah.
But for the person who might be an immigrant or refugee, or the person who might be less sophisticated or less privileged, um, how do we have their back?
Yeah.
Um, and is that not divine work to have someone's back, right?
Right. Right.
So no, it's all about me.
Anyways, I don't want to derail you from you were talking about your challenges, but I just want to plug in right now that you made a difference in my life. We're talking about people that treat you
You're trying to make
different.
me blush today. You're trying to make me blush, huh? I can
Is
tell.
it working?
Oh no, yeah, I think it is.
So I remember I came to you one time. Somebody said something to me when I worked. We were at the same organization. Without repeating what that person said, I came to you and I was like, I didn't even know how to respond to this. And it was a stereotype of some sort. And so you shared with me that book, Ouch, That Stereotype Hurts.
Right.
And let me tell you, that book changed my life. And I share with people, as a matter of fact, I did a recording talking about that because people struggle with like, how do I respond to someone when they treat me like what the example you were giving, where they're talking about hello and talking about all these things. And then you show up, they say, how may I help you? Right? Like, how do you respond to that? And even when people say things to you, how do you respond to that, to use the ouch technique and learn from it? I just love it. I shared with on my website, I did a vlog where I recorded how you responded to stereotypes. So I wanted to plug that in and just say thank you. That book really changed my life and how I react to people when they do that to me. So okay,
Oh, wow.
back to challenges.
Okay. No, another one is having the energy to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so something I would suggest that all of us think about is making sure that you have a network that does two things. One is it tells you when to pump your brakes, when to slow down. You're headed for the deep end or a cliff. Are there any people that can flip your light switch and tell you to stop? Right?
Okay.
Make sure you have those. Here's the other thing is when you take a psychic beat down, because those will happen, is there someone who will bring you a psychic hug, a Band-Aid, Bactine, A&D ointment, whatever works for you. And so there are days when, the wonderful Dr. Mason feels just a little bit beleaguered. And I got a bunch of homies that I'll reach out to and they'll prop me back up and put me back in the saddle and send me off into the sunset.
Yeah.
There are other people that say, James, you know what? I think you were just a little bit off the deep end on that one, my friend. And so I don't think the change work can be done alone. And here's another funny thing to think about in terms of finding mentors or a support network. They don't have to be human necessarily. And what I mean by that, something for me that I've always, authors. So as tough as my life might get, dang, at least I'm not Harriet Tubman. I'm serious, right?
Yeah.
Or at least as tough as my life might get, I'm not George Washington Carver or Benjamin Banneker. And then I find great inspiration in people such as Toni Morrison, for example. She's been someone, her writing, whenever I want to be lonely or feel isolated or feel down, I have my go-tos. James McBride is someone I've picked up more recently, and can't read enough of them. And so, and then, like I said, so the literary guides that I have, the historic guides that I have, there's spiritual guides that I have. And so I talked about the loneliness of sometimes it comes with being who you are. There's ways to populate your world with fictive heroes, historic figures. You're never alone, right? And with the advent of information technology, it doesn't have to be a book if you're not big into reading. It could be a short video.
Yeah.
It could be a blog. It could be a podcast. And so if you were to see my 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 um my uh my room, my bed, for example, there's books, there's iPads and Nooks and Kindles and yeah.
So you're surrounded by
Yeah, I got toys. I tell people I had a deprived childhood. That's why I buy all this stuff. But I got all kind of power objects around me that help keep me halfway decent.
Yeah.
And I have tons of friends that help keep me halfway decent.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So one of the questions I was going to ask you later is do you have a couple book recommendations that you can share with people that sort of made a difference in your life? I just mentioned that small little book, Ouch Technique, it made a difference in my life, but like give me top two.
Oh, top two. One of my favorites of all time is I think it's Counseling the Culturally Different by Daryl Sue.
Okay.
SUE. Prolific writer. More recently, has been writing around the issue of microaggressions. But it's done a lot in the mental health field, helping me, for example, understanding rationale for why we pay attention to this in my field, health and human services. Got to work with him a couple times on the road and found him to be a very, very gracious individual. But I could list off numerous authors.
That's why I said top two, because you said you're surrounded by
so, and then I go back to probably Toni Morrison is my go-to, but James McBride has been fascinating more recently. His poster book was the Color of Water, I believe it was the title. Great writer in terms of his prose, great storyteller in terms of his stories. So they really take me away, but I like the classics. I mean, how do you not like James Baldwin, for example? I did not like Maya Angelou, for example. And then more recently, I've been trying to branch out into more spiritual writings from around the world. And again, trying to look for, even though we might have different faiths, one of the things that often anchors those things is a belief in monotheism, in one supreme, right? And so a bunch of stuff that I read and a bunch of stuff that I look at, a bunch of stuff that I listen to, and still learning.
Yeah. No, learning never stops, right? Until we're dead. That's what I think. But okay, so thank you for that. I want to know, so you grew up in LA and you talked about your neighborhood and all that. So from a person looking at you on paper and me knowing you, I can say you are successful, right? So how do you feel, in your opinion? How do you measure success?
I still want that Porsche collection, and I still want that house in the hills of Malibu. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. No, I think I measure it in the people around me, thinking that I'm doing okay. So I think my mom and dad, who are both gone now, would be okay. That I'm headed in the right direction. My sister's gone now. I think she would feel okay. I lost a dear friend this week. I think she would think I was. Thank you. I think she would. So, while I would like to say success, it would have been wonderful to have been able to measure it materially. What I really wonder now, after living as long and seeing as much as I have, I think I measure success when my peeps are cool with me, and I bring honor to them, and so either we all go or nobody goes. So the group is of critical importance to me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So earlier we also talked about mentorship, and I feel like, some of us look up to you for mentorship because you're a leader. But what does a leader look up to? I know you talked about reading and like your tribe, so to speak, but do you have a mentor, somebody that you go to, you sit down with and say, hey, let's just chat, and to make sure that you're on the right path?
I have several. It depends what I'm doing. So one of my mentors is a physician here in Oregon. Is older gentleman, older than me, which makes him old. So around things clinical, he's my mentor. I have another buddy who's a tradesperson, a former carpenter. For things I'm doing around the house, he's my mentor. I have other people who are successful parents to help me with parenting. They're my mentor. I don't believe in one. The other thing that I've learned about mentoring is I tend to like two-way mentoring relationships. So, for example, you would probably call yourself a mentee, but I think you're also a mentor of mine.
Yeah, we can all learn from each other. Yeah.
And so, no, I don't have one. I have many.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from being the only boy. I had two sisters. I was the only boy. So I started by adopting brothers all over the world, then adopting more sisters all over the world, then adopting more moms and dads all over the world, and adopting young people all over the world. And so I have a bunch of mentors and mentee relationships, and it's hard to tell who's a mentor or mentee.
Yeah. No, and that's where it's a good relationship when you're learning from each other. So yeah, I like that. So when you think about one of the things that I tell the people that I coach is to, have what leadership traits. I mean, you can Google that, right? You can list them 1 to 10 and you see what they are. But I'm just curious from your perspective, what do you feel like a leader should look like? I mean, be a learner from others, like you said, but I'm wondering, what are there any sort of traits that you feel like these are important?
I think something that's often underrated is empathy,
Mm-hmm.
trying to feel what the other person, what's their deal, right? And if I can only see them through my lens, I might miss them.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I can only see our situation from my lens, I might miss them. So learning, as difficult as it is, trying to walk in someone else's shoes, see it from their perspective, right? Um, Also, not believing in scarcity so much. I don't believe in zero sum.
Mm,
I don't think if you win, I lose. And I think if you're really cool as a leader, can you create win-win scenarios,
right,
right?
right.
The other thing that if you're trying to get someone to yes, how do you explain it or construe it or make it in their best interest to do so? Which means another thing is I have to know what's in their best interest. It's
Mm,
like being an ally. Um, so should I ally for you in ways that make sense for me? Or should I ally for you in ways that make sense for you? My default is knowing what makes sense for me. Where I can become vulnerable is sharing with you that I don't know what matters to you, but what would work for you? Can I make
mm,
myself vulnerable to learning and hearing?
right.
So no, I think there's so many things that I'm still learning around developing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Do I see myself as a leader? Well, my title would say that I am, but like I said, number one, I think I've always tried to be out there,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think a great leader is a great supporter too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So most of my leadership skills come from learning to support better and
Yeah.
helping others and finding out what would be helpful. So I think I'm a decent leader. I think I'm a decent supporter, and I go back and forth. So if you have a good idea, I can help you in ways that might amaze you. At the same time, I can have a good idea, and you can help me in ways that might amaze us.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm not the only. I shouldn't be the only voice in the room.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen you in action. I know that you're not. But is there someone or an advice or something that someone gave you in your life that has stuck with you and kind of helped shape who you are, other than like your parents, right? Like how you were raised, but
Well, actually, I remember when I graduated from my undergraduate degree.
Mhm,
I had a girlfriend moved up from LA with me, and we're living together. And she had a little car, and I graduated and got a job, and she had to take her little car to work, and I didn't have a way to get to work. So I called my dad and I said, "Hey, oh man, I just graduated and just got a job. I need a car. Should I buy a car?" He says, "Yeah, if you're going to afford a car, you should buy a car." I said, "Cool, I can afford it." I said, "But if I lose my job and I can't afford my car, won't they repossess it?" He says, "Yeah, if you don't pay for the car, then they'll repossess it." So I said, "I shouldn't get a car then, huh?" He says, "No, not if you can't pay for it." I'm like, dang. And I said, "Well, what would you do?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What would you do?" He says, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Okay, but if you were me, what would you do?" He says, "I have no idea. I'm not you." I said, I know, but if you were me, what would you do?" And my dad says, "I'm not you. I have no idea what I would do." I said, "You weren't me 10 years ago, but you knew everything I should do, right?
Right.
Be me one more time, right?" And he said, "No." I said, he says, "You know what?" He says, "You're tough enough. make a decision and make it work. I'm like, what
Oh.
kind of advice is that? And he said, what if you lost your job? Why wouldn't you get another job? And I think
Right.
I had that trauma from not wanting to work. So I lose my job. I think it was destiny. I'm not supposed to get another job. But but my dad said, I raised you to be tough enough. Make a decision and make it work. So I think you can sit there. What's it called? Paralysis by analysis,
Mm-hmm.
where you sit there, uh, 6 of one, half dozen the other.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Right.
And typically, we're tough enough to make it work, even if we made the wrong choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, did I buy a car? What
Yeah.
did I buy?
That was going to be my question. Did you?
No, I think I bought his car. Or he
I
gave
love
me
that.
his or something, but no, that was something that I had to learn because I could have sat there for days. Should I buy a car? Should I not buy a car? Should I buy a car? Should I not buy a car?
Mm-hmm.
And I what did I do? I ended up saying, "Oh, can I buy?" He had a car that I wanted, and
Okay.
so I don't think I bought it. I think I just asked him. I would, how you would do with parents. I'll buy it from you,
You permanently borrowed it.
and then I paid a couple payments, and
And that was it.
yeah,
Sucker.
yeah. Oh, you know what? But then then I had kids, and guess what happened?
They did the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
You got payback there.
yeah.
I
There
love
you
it.
go. Yeah, karma's real.
Yeah. So, well, this is really great. I'm just curious. I was asked this question. I'm not going to ask it the same way they asked me. I went for an interview a couple of weeks ago, and the woman asked me, this was a question from the CEO, and it was like, if you were to walk into a conversation, people were at a table talking about you that I have worked with before, what are they saying about me? Or what would I like them to say about me? Actually, not what would I like, what are they saying about me? So the question I'm going to ask you centered around that. Like, how would you like strangers to remember you? And what are the people, or maybe what are the people that you work with? What would they say about you?
Um, what they say about me, or what do I want to hear about me? What I
No,
want to hear.
let's go with are they saying? Because what we like is all good, right? Like, what are they really saying?
Most people think Dr. Mason is kind of okay, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think he's a nice guy. He's polite. He's considerate.
He's
Um,
passionate.
yeah,
Mm-hmm,
and yeah. Well, what I want to hear is he was raised right.
mm,
Tribute to my parents. Um, People like him. People respect him.
mm-hmm.
Um, um, he's cute. He's handsome. No, no, I don't know. I just want to do things like I said. My parents worked really, really hard to get me where I am. My friends
Mhm.
worked really hard to help get me where I am. I try to make sure I honor them. And then as I think about, how I look at life,
Mhm.
I think I have so many ancestors that keep me out of trouble and keep my spirit healthy and keep my spirit focused.
Mhm.
I think I'm grateful to my creator. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. Um, it didn't have to end up. It's not as great as I would like, but it's not bad.
Mhm.
But it could have ended up much, much, much worse. I think fate and luck play a big, big, big role. And a lot of people say, what is luck? It's preparation and opportunity. And I kind
Mhm.
of believe that. I prepare hard. I look for opportunity. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I count my blessings. Life is good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. So to kind of wrap things up, I'm gonna end it with a rapid fire fun questions.
Oh, here we go.
But before we get to that, um, is there a question that you were hoping I would ask or something you want to share? And also, what would you say to an emerging leader, somebody who was James Mason 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and they are kind of, they got their first job, they're calling their dad to say, should I buy a car? What would you say to that leader?
Make a decision, make it work. I would also say this. Hard work wins out, right? Believe it or not, push yourself, grow yourself, don't stop. I would also say don't take yourself too damn seriously.
Yeah.
Smile, laugh every now and then. All work and no play make Jack a dull boy. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Work hard, play hard. And ultimately, it ain't that damn serious, right?
Yeah.
Here's a funny thing though. You can't succeed without failing.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But
no one comes out of the womb hitting a home run. I'm sorry. And when I hear that stuff about people, oh, a natural athlete or natural intelligence, no, that stuff is cultivated. And if you work hard, you can hit a home run too, right? If you're so interested. But I would say continuous self-discovery is going to be incredible. And also recognizing that if you don't like you, it doesn't matter. No one else will.
Yikes.
Learn to love you.
That one is deep. Yeah.
Learn to love you.
Yeah.
And the quicker you learn to love you, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, that one is hard truth for sure. If you don't like you, nobody else will.
It won't matter.
So you might as well like yourself.
Yeah, whatever it is, whatever you were dealt. You got. I'll close on this. One of the people that inspired me to have kids, I was over his house one night, and his wife was doing something, and he had the kids, and saying, "Okay, it's time to go to bed. You need to go brush your teeth and go to bed." And the kids yelled back, "Do we have to brush our teeth?" And he says, "Only the ones you want." Right? I died when he said that, but that's kind of true. If you got that one tooth, brush that one tooth. Right? Learn to love yourself. It was meant to be. You were destined. You were divine.
Yeah.
And you got to have that source of faith and belief in yourself, because you're going to get punched in the stomach, and you're going to get poked in the eye, and you're going to get tripped going down the stairs. Fall down, but don't stay down.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Yeah. No, very, very true. I love it. I love it. So we're not wrapping up because we're gonna do just
that's
five.
Right. Oh, I forgot. Okay.
Just 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So number 1, what was your first job?
Oh, a shoe shine boy.
Oh, okay.
In a white barbershop in Southern California. I was helping Mr. Green shine shoes.
Nice. What was your favorite subject in school?
Probably math for some reason. History was probably a close second, but I like math for some reason.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, I'm a foodie.
Okay.
So you know that. Let's go have lunch.
I do. Fly out here. I'll make a reservation.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. I'm a foodie.
Money or happiness?
Money or happiness?
Damn.
All right, happiness. Begrudgingly.
But that's not what you want.
I have friends with money and happiness.
Oh.
Happiness, I can create my own money.
Yeah.
I can create my own wealth.
Yeah. It's a lot said when somebody's got a lot of money and they're not happy.
Yeah, it's like, damn. Give me the money. You're wasting it.
Yeah. I was in church last Sunday, and our pastor talked about how we always say money is the root of all evil. But he said, no, money is good. Money, you can do good with money. You can actually be happy with money. It's just the love for money, the desire to, you got $1 million in your bank account, you're striving for that second million, right? Like the want. It's like you have the money, enjoy it, give to others, do the things that impact others. So it can be a good thing, but we always say that money is the root of all evil, but that's actually not true.
I think greed is the root of all evil.
That's true. And I think we should switch it to that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question. What is a song or dance? What is a song you dance to or sing out loud when no one is looking or listening?
Oh man, there's so many. Anything by George Clinton, I would. Pharrell, Happy, also can get me going. Yeah. Oh, Prince was amazing to me. Michael, of course. I still listen to the rap stuff. I got rhythm in my body, so it doesn't. In fact, I was listening to, there was an old movie called Porgy and Bess with Sidney Poitier and a whole bunch of host of people. And I found a video, and so every now and then I play grew up with the soundtrack in the house, but every now and then Harry Belafonte tune or show tune from that movie will get me excited. And in any club with too much alcohol, I'll be the first to dance, and if you're my dance partner, I'll embarrass the hell out of you. Then what the hell are you doing? But I'm in my own world. A few drinks and a good song.
It goes down.
It goes down in the ghetto. There you go.
I love it. Well, thank you for being a part of this. I'm so grateful that you took the time to chat with me and let me record you. So
honored. Anytime. Honored to have been invited. Honored to have had this conversation. And as you know, I'm a big Canoe fan, and wish you continued success. Stay the rock star you were meant to be, sweetheart.
Oh, you're so awesome. Thank you. Right back at you. Thank you. Thank you.